Welcome to Redesigning the Undergraduate Experience Core and General Education Program. In this micro session, I will identify and describe an essential curricular framework curricular developers and instructional designers utilize and apply to build programs, courses, and learning experiences. This essential curriculum framework is to identify clearly defined student outcomes. Clearly defined student outcomes are broad statements that describe what students are expected to learn, the knowledge they should acquire, and the skills they should develop after completing a program or course, module, or learning experience. Before I describe this principle, I would like to share an experience I had and explain how this experience changed the way I view the curriculum development process. I had a colleague who was a sculptor. When we worked together on a curriculum redesign project and were discussing the value and purpose of our respective disciplines, he made the statement that when he works with clay, he not only shapes and informs the clay, but the clay shapes and informs him, and he is changed by this experience. This was such a powerful concept that I held it in my mind for years. It made me think that perhaps as we begin the process of designing or redesigning a program, course, or learning experience, we should start the process by asking the question, how will the learner change as a result of this experience? For example, perhaps the learner will become more thoughtful about consuming information, more compassionate about judging others who hold different points of view. They may be able to assemble ideas from different perspectives and formulate a new position or solve a complex problem. Or perhaps they will be motivated to make changes in their life. By starting with this question, how will the learner change or be changed as a result of this experience, we can start to design a curriculum that promotes significant learning or learning that sticks and stays with the learner far beyond the end of the course or experience. Thus, we could define and develop desired student outcomes by asking the question, what should the learner know, feel valued, believe, and be able to do after completing this program, course, module, unit, or learning experience? It is important to acknowledge that curriculum developers do not identify and develop desired student outcomes in a vacuum. They utilize a variety of resources, including reviewing research and information disseminated by academic and professional associations in higher education, discipline-specific professional associations, regional and discipline-specific accreditation agencies, foundations and grant funding agencies, and economic development, industry, and local agencies and organizations. Curriculum developers also review institutional information, including the mission, history, goals, priorities, and resources of the institution, the needs, characteristics, expectations, abilities, and prior academic experiences of the students, information collected about and from alumni, enrollment data related to the institution and specific programs and disciplines, and information and research related to societal issues, including demands and expectations of higher education. As developers review and refine their list of desired student outcomes, they should ask the question why. Why is this desired student outcome important? What is the rationale or purpose for establishing this student outcome? Identifying and describing the purpose and the rationale for a student outcome can answer the question students often ask. Why do I have to take this course or study this content? Addressing this question can improve student motivation and engagement by helping students see the relevance and meaning of what they are studying. Identifying the purpose and rationale of different student outcomes is also a way to pare down outcomes to a manageable level, a challenge given the explosion of new information and the accelerated rate of change in society. When selecting desired student outcomes, curriculum designers also ask and answer the question, how? How does this outcome link to the purpose of the general education program and the mission of the institution? Making this connection is important to ensure that the desired student outcome leads to the fulfillment of both the general education program and the institution's mission and goals. This helps to maintain curricular integrity and alignment. An additional approach for identifying and developing desired student outcomes is to identify the current and future settings students will live and work in, and identify and define the knowledge, skills, and abilities they will need to function and perform in these settings. In addition, it is also helpful to identify the situations students will encounter in their personal, professional, and community life. Finally, desired student outcomes can be developed based on the roles and responsibilities students will assume and fulfill in their personal, professional, and community lives. Preparing students for the settings they will work and live in, the situations they will encounter, and the roles they will fulfill not only helps them to become contributing members of society, but also makes their learning experiences relevant and meaningful, which is important to enhancing student motivation, engagement, and learning. In conclusion, identifying clearly defined student outcomes is an essential curricular framework that is used by curriculum developers and instructional designers to create a curriculum that promotes significant learning or learning that sticks. Clearly defined student outcomes describes what students are expected to learn, the knowledge they should acquire, the skills they should develop, and the values, beliefs, or behaviors they will demonstrate after completing a program, course, module, or learning experience. Each desired student outcome has a clear purpose and supporting rationale, which is tied to the mission of the institution and the purpose and goals of the core and general education program. The rationale for identifying and establishing a student outcome is often developed based on an examination of internal and external factors impacting the student, the institution, and society. Finally, clearly defined student outcomes are used to design learning experiences that prepare students for current and future settings, situations, and roles. In the next micro session, we will examine how curriculum developers and instructional designers use curriculum development principles to promote the holistic development of students. Welcome to Redesigning the Undergraduate Experience Core and General Education program. In this micro session, we will examine how to build a curriculum that promotes the holistic development of students.